Hi guys. So Ursula von der Leyen did not mention Brexit or the United States in the introductory part of her speech. She left it to later on in that speech. And I think it's quite interesting what she has to say about the United States and Brexit and how the European Union is going to move forward from that. So let's hear what she had to say.
Honourable members, as well as responding more assertively to global events, Europe must deepen and refine its partnerships with its friends and allies. And this starts with revitalising our most enduring partnerships. We might not always agree with recent decisions of the White House, but we will always cherish the Transatlantic alliance based on shared values and history, and an unbreakable bond between our people. So what may happen later this year, we are ready to build a new transatlantic agenda to strengthen our bilateral partnership, be it on trade, on tech or taxation, and we are ready to work together on reforming the international system we built together, jointly.
So this is in response to Donald Trump, basically. Or in a sense, it's in response to Donald Trump, but it's not directed at Donald Trump. The European Union have attempted to work with the Trump administration, and it has fallen flat on its face. Instead, I think what the European Union here are doing is reaching out to perhaps Joe Biden and his administration, because she's saying what's going to happen later this year. But I think this is a long-term approach. I think this is attempting to reach out to individual states in the United States and also Congress itself. There has been cooperation between the European Union and, for example, states like California, on an informal level, of course. But I think they're moving forward. The European Union want to bypass the president, for example, because of what we've seen with Trump. There have been much better relations between the European Union and Congress, for example, and members and some states in the United States. So I think they're looking at the long term, and they're working towards building better relations with people who are maybe not directly from the Republican or Democratic administrations of the time.
With like-minded partners. For our own interests and in the interest of the common good, we need new beginnings with old friends on both sides of the Atlantic and on both sides of the Channel. The scenes in this very room when we held hands and sang goodbye with Auld Lang Syne spoke 1,000 words.
I remember that scene, and I think many people who are Remainers would remember that scene very well too. And this was a demonstration that the European Union has no ill will towards the UK. The UK decided to leave, and the EU said, well, we will respect that. There was not animosity towards MPs. I think there was frustration with the Brexiteers. There was frustration with the British media who are pro-Brexit. And there was frustration with the likes of Boris Johnson and members of his government. But this was not frustration towards the British people. It was not frustration to Parliament in general. It was frustration with members of Boris Johnson and Theresa May's governments.
And they showed an affection for the British people that will never fade. But with every day that passes, the chances for a timely agreement do start to fade. Negotiations are always difficult, and we are used to that. And the Commission has the best and most experienced negotiator, Michel Barnier, to navigate us through that. But talks...
So the Express and other Brexit newspapers were talking about, running this story. Brexiteers as well online were running this story that, the EU are tired with Michel Barnier. He's not doing what they want. They're ready just to dump him. And of course, this was a tactic by the Brexiteers to undermine the negotiations, to make it look like the EU is in a weaker position. The Brexit negotiations are going to work better for the UK. It's once again, we hold all the cards. The EU is crumbling. It's about to collapse at any stage. If you don't believe me, just read some of the comments on my channel. So once again, there was this story that Michel Barnier is going to be thrown under a bus. It doesn't seem to be the case. And also, to back up the idea that it's no longer the case, this story has sort of died.
Have not progressed as we would have wished, and that leaves us very little time. As ever, this House will be the first to know, and it will be the one that has the last say. And I can assure you we will continue to update you thoroughly, just as we did with the withdrawal agreement. This withdrawal agreement took 3 years to negotiate, and we worked relentlessly on it, line by line, word by word, and together we succeeded. And the result guarantees our citizens' rights, financial interests, the integrity of the single market, and crucially, the Good Friday Agreement. And the European Union and the UK jointly agreed it was the best and only way for ensuring peace on the island of Ireland.
So what she's saying here is that the Brexiteers and Boris Johnson are attempting to undermine this, but they signed up to it. They agreed to it. Now, some Brexiteers are saying, well, Boris Johnson was, was short on time and he had to rush it. But this is a pile of crap, because the European Union had given Boris Johnson on many occasions the possibility to extend the transition period. It said, look, if you don't think you have enough time, let's extend the transition period. But Boris Johnson refused that. He fought tooth and nail not to extend the transition period. Now he's saying, well, we didn't have enough time to read it.
And we will never backtrack on that. And this agreement has been ratified by this House and by the House of Commons. It cannot be unilaterally changed, disregarded, or disapplied. This is a matter of law and trust and good faith.
We all know this, but for some reason in the House of Commons, Boris Johnson won his majority in support of undermining international law.
And that is not just me saying it. I remind you of the words of Margaret Thatcher. I quote, "Britain does not break treaties. It would be bad for Britain, bad for relations with the rest of the world, and bad for any future treaty on trade." End of quote. This was true then, and this is true today.
This is epic. So using Margaret Thatcher's own words against the Conservative Party. This is perfect. So why? Because Margaret Thatcher is regarded by the Conservative Party as one, or if not, the greatest leader the Conservative Party have ever had. Maybe the first or second, depending on who you're speaking to. Now, to use her own words against the Conservative Party is powerful. Now, I think if Margaret Thatcher was still alive today, she would fall in line with the other Conservative Party leaders, prime ministers, who have come out against this wrecking of international law. She would have supported John Major and David Cameron and said, this is wrong. I'm pretty sure about that. Where she stands on Brexit, we don't know, but on breaking international law, I'm pretty sure she would have come out against Boris Johnson. So I think it was a very good speech. It is important to remember that the European Union have moved on from this. They're not spending any more time on Brexit. Or at least I should say Brexit is getting smaller and smaller in the agenda of the European Union. During the speech, she talked about trade with China and how it's important to maintain European principles and in that trade deal and the negotiations surrounding trade, and how European values are different to those of China, but they'd still want to work towards some sort of agreements, not just on trade, but on environmental protections, climate change, and other issues. But at the same time, maintaining European values to defend human rights. For example, as we know, it's an issue in China. So I think this was a very good speech. This particular part on the United States and Brexit was very interesting. But I'd like to hear your comments, guys. So let me know in the comment section what you think of this part of the speech. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?